Hello, my Teaserking family. How are you today? Happy Thanksgiving coming tomorrow, but I'll wish it for you now. Hope everybody is well. Just 1 second. All right. So let us look at gold. Gold's 26.37. It got up to 26.55 roughly. And then at 10 o'clock, when the U.S. Joined the game, it went down to 26.40 and then hovered around 26.35 to 26.40 the rest of the day. 26.38 now. Now, this will be interesting tomorrow. There will not be a 10 o'clock drop because the U.S. is closed for the holiday. So I would expect it to be back to about 26.75 tomorrow without any down hit, as the U.S. will be closed. Silver 30.15. So silver, we know it's undervalued, but you just have to wait. All you can do now is buy it with the knowledge it's going to go up. When, we don't know, but we know it will. And then we will simply, hey, Luke. Yeah, China is open, Europe's open. When it gets to 10 o'clock in the morning, I assume we'll see a flat line. It might be closed until like on a Sunday when it opens for China at 7 o'clock. But definitely because we're open when Asia will have their holidays and it's still open, right? But they just don't. There's nobody really bidding or anything, so we'll be open, but we're not going to be open. But the market's open, so yes, it will. So silver, all we can do is know. Here's how I explained it to some guy at work yesterday. I said, imagine a boat going off over a waterfall. Same thing as Titanic. But I liked the spice in the story. And I said, you're going over the falls. You either have two choices. You either stay in the boat and go over the falls, or you get off the boat into a lifeboat. And in our case, the lifeboat's gold and silver. So you don't really have a choice unless you want to go over the waterfall. And that is the point with silver and gold. You don't have a choice. You got to get out of the dollar. And everything that Trump's doing, and he appoints George Soros to the U.S. Treasury. Unbelievable. The guy he's appointed is a George Soros guy. So who do you think he listens to, right? So we have major problems. Luke, it's going to break at some point and go no bid. When who knows? BRICS announcement didn't happen. Well, it's December 1st. It's supposed to. I was watching something on YouTube and they're saying how Putin is going broke. And so my comment was, but he's got 20,000 tons of gold. He'll go to the gold, just like China. They get too broke, they go to the gold. We don't have gold to go to, and we're broke. So you have everybody going over this waterfall, every country, except for Zimbabwe, who already has gold on the gold standard. But BRICS will get off into the lifeboat, and us and the UK and Canada and Euro and Switzerland all goes over the waterfall because they don't have a lifeboat. And so my friend at work goes, well, the government won't let it happen. I go, well, the Romans let it happen. They didn't have a choice. It's not like the government can say, no, we're not gonna default. We're not gonna. It's exactly what you're gonna do. You're gonna keep printing it till it's worthless because you don't have a freaking clue what to do with it or how to save it. I'll be in the lunchroom and they have Bloomberg on, big TV. And so sit there for 5 minutes, and all these countries are like trying to get their inflation down, and they all think interest rates will do it, which interest rates won't do shit. The reason they think interest rates will slow the economy and then the prices will go down because these idiots all think that inflation is prices. And I'm like, it's got nothing to do with prices because prices are controlled by the market. So when they show you Venezuela and there's nothing on the shelf or they're very expensive, that's because of price controls that Venezuela's done. And so nobody's in business because if I can't make a profit, I don't stay in business. It's very simple. If it costs me 20 and I can sell it for 15, do I make it? No, I go out of business. That's why the shelves are empty in some of these countries, because they do price controls. That's how stupid these people are running these countries. But all interest rates will do is cause a recession. Because you're making costs go high, just like the tariffs are going to do. They're going to make the costs go high, so people can't afford them. So if they put a tariff on your tennis rackets, Luke, and all of a sudden it was $1,000 a tennis racket, you wouldn't sell any of them. And that's what's going to happen. And then the American companies will start selling them for $9.99. Well, they should be $300. Nobody's going to buy them, and that's what tariffs do. They just raise the price, which actually causes a depression. So raising interest rates, all it does is make things cost more. So they think, well, people won't buy as much, and then the producer will lower their price. Well, not necessarily. The market controls what you can do. So it's not like that at all. That doesn't lower inflation. You've printed the money. That's the number one thing you got to know. And that's the one thing I keep pounding into you is inflation is inflating the money supply. Well, that's where they got the word from. So you print and print and print. That's the inflation, not the prices. So how is raising interest rate going to reduce the amount of dollars in circulation? It doesn't. So the inflation never goes down. It never goes anywhere. Therefore, raising interest rates don't do a damn thing. Lowering rates don't do a damn thing. See, they think if they lower the rates, the prices are going up. Again, they all think it's prices. And it just, as Bobby would say, it's a shake my head moment. What the fuck? Oh, Bobby said hi the other day, Luke. He was on yesterday. He says, he says, has Luke been on? I says, yeah, he was just on. So Bobby says hi. I say, you say hi when Bobby's on. Now here's a quote from Bobby. So we actually think it's Bobby, right? I think it's real. He said he saw Adrian Peterson in downtown Tampa. Now, if you're not Bobby, I don't know that you would be saying that. So he knew Adrian Peterson. If I walked down the street, I wouldn't know who Adrian Peterson. I know who he is. Played for the Vikings, but I wouldn't recognize him. So he said he saw him and said hi and was talking to Adrian Peterson. So now you think, yeah, it is Bobby. So he's mentioning Tampa, where he's saying he's from. A liar would maybe mess up the city and would never drop Adrian Peterson's name if it wasn't Bobby Bo. So we do think it is really Bobby Bo. There are 0 tennis rackets made in America. Okay, so what's going to happen to the tennis racket? You're going to be out of job because they're all made wherever, China or Japan or whatever, probably China or Taiwan or Philippines. You're going to tariff them for what? There's no American made. The Wilson doesn't make it. Spalding doesn't make it, I guess, or they're in China. So now what's going to happen to tennis rackets? The price will go up. It'll hurt you, and I won't be able to buy one because I can't afford it, and that'll be the problem. So That's their solution. So all it does is raise prices, which slows the economy because you sell less because it's more expensive. People don't just grow money on trees. I used to tell this to Carmen, my Romanian friend, and she'd want to spend money like it was water. And I says, Carmen, there is no money tree. I can't go out in the back and pull out $1,000. I only have so much. And that goes to all these Europeans think all Americans are millionaires. Didn't you know that? Well, you're American. You must be a millionaire. No, no, no. I'm not a millionaire. I got a few dollars. I don't have a million of them. Anyway, but that's what's going to happen. So he's going to do tariffs, and the cost of your tennis rackets are going to go up because everything from China, Taiwan, or wherever, Philippines, wherever these are coming from, India, are all going to go up. And that's what's going to happen. So keep that in mind. Hey, Todd. It's been a stressful 2.5 weeks of jury duty. No phones allowed. That sucks. Missed out on football. Did I miss anything exciting besides Alabama fucking Bama getting beat? Well, you missed the prologue. I had Detroit, Denver. This week, though, you're in time. I've got a 37 unit lock and a 31 unit lock. Mwah. They're going this weekend. I played 2 of the 3 pros tomorrow. Friday, there's a boatload of games. I'll probably play 2 or 3 of them. And then Saturday, I got at least 4 locks going. There's 3 revenge games, and then the pros. We got the games tomorrow, and then there's a few good pro games. I have 2 locks going on Sunday. So, yeah, if you can figure out Alabama losing to Oklahoma. I was looking at the stat. South Carolina killed them. Old Mississippi killed them. Tennessee killed them. And all of a sudden, Alabama scores a whole 3 points on them. Wow. And I tell you, I don't know what to expect from Alabama this week. They play Auburn. They might lose this game. Because I don't think they have the talent to do this, which shows you how good Michael Penix is. They get to the championship game with Michael Penix with the same coach. Here he goes to Milrose, and they're losing half their games. Same coach, same situation. So Penix, I hope Atlanta loses this week. They play San Diego, and then we get to see Penix, who's better than Bo Nix and better than Jalen Daniels. And then you'll really see who's who. But he's the king, and yet why do you keep playing? We know what Cousins is. He choked for Minnesota, so we know what he is, right? So if we know he sucks, it's like Daniel Jones. They had to keep playing him. Why? You knew he sucked. What were you expecting this year? So finally they released him. I guess the Vikings picked him up as their 3rd string quarterback. I don't know what they're thinking, right? Oh, yeah, we want Daniel Jones because I would assume the Giants are paying 9/10 of the salary, so he's just cheap because nobody's paying that guy $35 million a year and picking him up. You got to be kidding me. So, yeah, I'm staying away from Alabama because I love the coach, but I don't know what the hell is going on. And Milrose is just a choke. Todd, I think there are going to be some dogs barking this weekend. Yeah. I don't know. I'm betting favorite, total. I think I might. Let's see. Maybe in the pros I do. Let's see in college. Total favorite. I got 1 dog favorite, a total. I got another dog and 1 other. That's it. I got a lot of favorites in the NFL. 1 dog. And I don't know about that one. And that'll probably be a favorite. That's a total. That's probably a favorite. That's probably no. I don't have too many dogs. So the three-game revenge games in college. We'll go back to economics in a second. The three revenge games are Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Washington is a double revenge from last year. They beat them in the regular season, and then they beat them in the Pac-10 championship game, and it cost Oregon the playoff where they would have won it. So there's some revenge, and Washington's not that good. So I'm not touching Washington as a dog. I'll tell you that. In the last revenge games, Arizona killed them last year, and now Arizona State's got the good team. I ain't fucking with the dog in that game either. So no, I got a lot of favorites and I got a lot of totals. Thank God for the Big 12. every game is an over except for you got to be careful with Kansas State and you got to be careful with BYU. But otherwise, it's over city. Anyway, I'm not giving a free play. The last 4 or 5 weeks, I've given free plays. They've all lost. My free play last week was Indiana, Ohio State. Indiana 19. They're losing by 16 with 30 seconds left, and Ohio State scores a fucking touchdown instead of taking a knee. So I am not giving a free play, not because I don't want to, because they are losing. So I guess I should do a reverse. I'll give you a game, and we're really going the other way, and it'll lose, so we'll win because that. But I don't want to give anybody that much thought. So no. I can't give a free play. I don't want it's painful that it loses. I get frustrated. I did have a free play Detroit and Kansas City, and Detroit was my lock 2 weeks ago, and Kansas City lost to Buffalo by 9, and we were getting 8.5. Kansas City was my free play, so I'm out of the free play business for now. But yeah, well, you know my mind, so you'll figure it out. But not a lot of dogs. I don't see too many dogs. I have a couple of live dogs. I love Buffalo yesterday over Kent, and they beat them by 40, and we were laying 16 or 10 or whatever. Watch those Z teams. So let me give you the Z teams. Temple against North Texas. UMass against Connecticut. Florida State against Florida. Southern Miss, as every week with Troy. Middle Tennessee against Florida International. We've got Kennesaw State against L Tech. We've got Charlotte, who's actually favored against UAB, which my mind's blown. UTEP and New Mexico State are both Z teams playing each other. And Purdue against Indiana. Purdue's a Z team. And that's it. Just so many good games. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I have 5 college locks, and they're not like Alabama. Alabama was like, well, I think they'll win. They have to win the game. Oklahoma stinks. These locks are real locks. These are, they're going to kill them locks. So we see Kansas now has this running back who should be a top 5 pick to go with Gentry on Boise. So these teams with pretty good quarterbacks who need running backs, because you got to have balance. I just pray Cincinnati can trade up and either get Neal from Kansas or Gentry from Boise State, and they'll win the Super Bowl. Because you put Chase and Burrow you still got T. Higgins. I don't know if they'll keep him, but then you've got Gentry to run it or Neal from Kansas to run it. Forget about it. I love that Kansas was just just handing the ball to Neil, just here. And he just went, he reminded me a little of Le'Veon Bell. He kind of walk up to the line, and then 10 yards later, he's got a first down or some touchdowns. He's very explosive, very hard to tackle. So let's hope one of these two go to the Bengals. And then we just bet Cincinnati we bet the hell out of them every week. That's what Burrow's complaining about. They know I'm going to pass. They don't even look at the run. Well, you give them one of those two guys. They'll be honoring the run. Believe me, he'll really have a big day. When would be the correct time to purchase the bowl games? Couple weeks. What do we got? So this will be. Then the next week will be conference championships, so you can purchase them right after that. Whenever you want, I can give you the password for it, and whatever. But it'll be different because there's 12 teams in the playoff. We don't have to worry about the guys sitting out, 5 minutes before game time. So now we'll have 12 teams. So that's 12 teams we don't have to worry about where the guys are going to sit out. And your Sun Belts and your Max, nobody's sitting out. And it's just a real big like if Georgia doesn't make it, will they sit out? Like Florida State did last year. That was an embarrassment. They're getting what they deserve. Michigan, they always got guys sitting out. So we'll just kind of ignore those teams or maybe hope that the guys are sitting out and bet accordingly. You're welcome, Todd. Anyway, G, if you're out there, I sent you tomorrow's games because I know you're going to buy. So we will go that, but check your email there. Anyway, so back to economics, multitasking. So the boat goes over the waterfall. Well, the boat's going to be all these countries. They're all going to go over the waterfall. And if you're not in the lifeboat, then you're really fucked because now you'll have a bunch of money worthless. And that's the problem. Now, as long as these guys go to a gold-backed currency, everything's fine because it won't matter. They'll go to a gold-backed currency. And the medium of exchange works. Just keep the fucking government out of it. I don't know what Trump's doing. Hiring George Soros's guy for the Treasury Secretary. I don't know. There's something going on. Maybe it is a game where they're after Soros and maybe he can lead them to it. Maybe that's what it's doing. Like I think Luke was saying, it could be a ploy. Well, that could be a ploy. It makes no sense. Why would you want this asshole to run the U.S. Treasury? Are you kidding me? We'll be broke in 5 minutes. We'll be broke in a week. Anyway, gold's getting harder and harder to get. If people don't sell it, my guy doesn't have it. He only gets when people sell it. The price we know is going through the roof. I read you Egon's thing yesterday where he is saying, and I can read it again if you want, where he's saying gold's going to go, like he showed his stadium where after it takes 50 minutes to fill the stadium, but after 45, it's only 7% full and everything gets full the last 5 minutes. And that's what's going to happen. It's 2638 now, on its way to 15,000. And that's where it's headed. And Putin, will see what he does, supposedly the first or soon. He's going broke. He needs to pay for all the weapons. So he pulls out his gold and he can pay for everything. So that's what he's doing. So it's going to be soon. Maybe it's not December 1st. We'll have to listen to Mark McGuire on Friday. But if it's not, it'll be soon. And he probably wants to do it before Trump takes power. And Trump ain't the answer. He's not going to, do his wand, and all of a sudden everything goes up. That's not going to happen. So keep that in mind. Again, prices aren't inflation. Inflating the supply of money is, and that's not stopped. So they can tell you, oh, well, they're going to inflate the money. So, the prices are going down. So inflation is under control. No, inflation's not under control. The dollar's worthless, but they don't want to say that. A, they don't want to create a panic, and B, they're fucked anyway. I mean, there's nothing they can do. They printed so much money for the petrodollar, which is no longer, because Saudi Arabia doesn't want dollars for their oil. They want gold for their oil. And so we could understand that. And I don't know that BRICS even wants to have business with us because they don't want our dollar. Our dollar is worthless. Why would I want to trade with that? That'd be like me selling, my homes here and getting dollars. I don't want dollars. So I have to be Rumpelstiltskin and turn it into gold. So that's really, we all are Rumpelstiltskins. We are turning our crap dollars into gold and love every minute of it. Luke, read Egon again, please. Of course. All right. You'll like this. Egon really nails it home. This is on his Twitter. I do follow him, and he does follow me because I always leave him messages, and I go, the professor. Okay, so this is his Twitter. He put this article up, so I clicked into it. So on his Twitter, he shows the picture, but if you click into the picture, you get this. So this is his gold. Golds will rise by multiples by Egon. Notice the date, yesterday. So I will read it. The case for gold is uncontrollable. As Eastern and Southern central banks substantially increase their gold holdings, Western central banks most probably have little physical gold in their coffers. Total global gold reserves allegedly held by central banks, 37,000 tons, are valued at $3.1 trillion at the current market price of $2,700. The value is absurd when one U.S. company, Microsoft, has the same valuation. Just think about it. Microsoft is as big as the gold backing of the global financial system. Furthermore, Western central banks have most probably hypothecated and rehypothecated, which he says lent and leased out. So that's your Fort Knox. The gold might be there. It's not ours. It's China's. So we've sold it to JP Morgan or the bullion banks. They've sold it to China. They just haven't come and picked it up because it's fine in Fort Knox, but it's not ours. It's theirs. And that's where we argue. You think there's gold there, and I'm like, there might be, but it's not ours. We've sold it to China. Consequently, furthermore, Western banks have their gold several times via bullion banks. That gold will never come back. That's Fort Knox. Consequently, central banks is heavily short on gold and will be badly squeezed as the gold market becomes disorderly, meaning people want it and there's no supply. So they'll have to come up with gold, which will raise the price because they'll have to pay to get the physical for the sales. The combination of the Eastern, Southern central banks gold buying and all central banks replacing their dollars reserves with gold, which is what they're doing, will lead to unprecedented demand for gold for many years. More gold cannot satisfy this demand since the current gold mine production of around 3,000 tons cannot be increased. So there's demand, but there's no, it's like Mahomes. Well, there's 1,000 people that want the car, but there's only 50 and you can't produce anymore. So there's only 50 of them. That's it. There's only so much gold, but it's already gone. So what he's saying is the central banks have it all, or Russia or China or India. They have it all. So the only new is the 3,000 tons that come out of the ground every year. And that's already gone. And it can't be increased. So we might need 100,000 tons to come out of the earth to satisfy demand, but we can't. We can only get 3,000. So therefore, where do they get it? oh, I'll pay you more for the gold. They'll pay because they need the gold. They don't care what they pay, so they go ahead. And that's where the price is going to go to the moon. Thus, the substantial increase in physical gold demand can only be satisfied by much, much higher prices. We get too muches. This is why gold will rise by multiples. The article could stop here. You must know the above to understand why gold will be significantly revalued. There's more demand than there's supply. And you got hoarding by China and India and Russia and India, with China getting about 80,000 tons and Russia and India about 30,000 tons. So that doesn't leave a whole lot. And then all the central banks are buying it, right? So if every central bank but the US is buying gold, they're buying, 100 tons here, 500 tons there. There's nothing left. So only what they sell to my guy is what he has for sale. And if people stop selling to him, he won't have any. So the market is becoming very, very dry. Even though COMEX is pricing it, it's fantasy land. Still, the article contains a lot of interesting material. The incontrovertible, I don't know what that word is, case for gold. So I recommend you read on. Okay, Egon. In 1971, gold went up 78 times since Nixon closed the gold window. 78 times. As I have stated in many articles, gold is now in its exponential phase. I have shown my illustration there, so I will show you what I just told you. This is his stadium water, 1 drop per minute. The number of drops doubles every minute. 1 day, 1 month, 1 year to fill. No, only 50 minutes fills the stadium. So let's say it's, Ford Field or, San Francisco. How full after 45 minutes? He's like, no, it's only 7% full after 40 minutes. And in 50 minutes, it's full. In the final 5 minutes, it went from 7% to 100. So that's what he's saying. And we're getting to that stage now. So it's just about to go from 7 to 100. That's where we're at. They make it clear gold is now in a phase when the price will go up in multiples. All right, he starts his job in 69. Major gold selling by Western central banks. A long correction followed after 1980, and gold finally bottomed at $250 in 1999. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, many Western central banks liquidated part or all of their gold holdings. Countries like the UK, Switzerland, and Canada have their holdings in that period, and Norway sold all its gold. One of the best signals of a gold bottom was the Bank of England and Swiss National Bank selling over half of their gold near their lows. The central bank selling almost 10,000 tons was another sign of their total incompetence. As I have often argued, financial markets would function much better without these policy bureaucrats. Natural forces of supply and demand are the best regulators on earth. And that's exactly Austrian economics. You let the market determine, keep the invisible hand, keep the government out. And that's what I keep saying. So when I give you a $20,000 gold price, I'm giving you the natural supply and demand gold price. If you get the government out and you get JP Morgan and COMEX and these derivatives out of it, gold would be at least 20 grand and silver would be at least 2,000 if you just let it run. And that's why I come up with those numbers. They're approximations. They're probably low. And so that's not what we have, but that's what we're hoping for. We believe Putin coming out with the gold-backed currency, and we believe he's coming out with a diamond and metals exchange for physical diamonds and physical metals to get a real price, because this price is bullshit. How it's continued is, the government doesn't want the gold price to go up. Why not? I mean, what would be wrong with it? So why? So Bitcoin can be 95,000, but gold can't. Why not? Why? What does one got to do with the other? Oh, because Bitcoin's not real and gold is. Oh, okay. And everybody would jump into gold and get out of the dollar. I don't buy that. People aren't, I don't know if that's what's happening to Bitcoin is because they're getting out of the dollar, but they're going to the wrong place. They need to go. They need to be Rumpelstiltskin and not Jack and the Beanstalk, where they're jumping into Bitcoins instead of gold. They need to jump into gold. But our turn will come soon. The central bank selling. Okay, that's what we got. History tells us that gold should never be sold. If politicians and central banks ever studied history, they would know that no paper money has ever survived, ever, ever. And I told you that at the airport. And you go, 10%? I go, no. It goes to zero. All paper of fiat money has always been destroyed by governments without exception. Today, this is achieved by credit expansion or money printing, or as I call it, inflation. You inflate the money supply, it goes to zero 100% of the time, without exception. When gold and silver was money, the precious metal would be diluted by other metals like copper, zinc. That's the Romans. They put copper and zinc in their coins, and we know what happened to the Romans, unfortunately. Physical gold is for wealth preservation and the protection of purchasing power. Meaning, if you take $1 million and you buy it into gold, you will always have the $1 million. It will never go down, and you'll always be able to use gold for the same $1 million that you got it for, or probably more. Gold is for freedom and benefit. That's what we are. We're for freedom. Fort Knox holds nothing but moss and half-eaten IOUs. Vincent Lancy of Goldfix recently wrote the above article. Here's your Fort Knox. So that's what's in Fort Knox, maybe. Vince published the article here. He states by quoting my tweet, in reality, a central bank only holds an IOU issued by a bullion bank. If the central bank attempts to reclaim its gold, it will never get it back, as the gold has likely been sold to buyers in China or India who have purchased it outright with no obligation to return it. In other words, you go to Xi and say, oh, yeah, I have like 10,000 tons of gold that I lent to you. And no, you're not getting it back, fella. So that's Fort Knox, right? They sold it or lent it to China. They're never getting it back. That's his point. That's my point with you is we don't have any gold that's ours in Fort Knox. It might be China's, or it just isn't there because they've already delivered it to China more than likely. That's why they don't let the audit in. As I say, if I tell you got a Mahomes card, you say, well, let me see it. I go, here it is. See, I got it. But if I don't show it to you and I go, well, I can't show it to you, then you don't believe I have it, because why wouldn't I show it? And that's why I always argue that we don't have any, because if we did, we'd open the doors and show it. But because we don't have any, it's like money heist where Spain, the professor took the 90 tons and he'd say, I'll let everybody know you don't have any, and then you're bankrupt because the gold protects the dollars. And so the guy let the professor and the team go because they were broke. But if everybody thought they still had gold, then Spain was okay, and that's what happened. So they couldn't admit they didn't have the gold. It would ruin the country, and that's where we're at. So that's why we don't open Fort Knox, because it would prove we don't have any gold, and that would be it. And so we can't do that, and that's the problem. He goes on to say, bold claim, right? He's not wrong. Bottom line, with regards to Ms. Shelton's call to monetize our gold by throwing it out on the yield curve, with which we agree, there is no way you can do it honestly if you wanted to. We'd wager no gold is there at all. Anyway, there is much less gold in Fort Knox than people think, which brings us to Posar's predictive analysis. He goes on to quote the revered Zoltan Posnar's article. Banks have been managing their paper gold books with one assumption, which is that nation states would ensure gold wouldn't come back as a settlement medium. So once it's lent out, it's gone. The above article is really worth reading, and it confirms my initial statement in this article that central banks have hypothecated or sold their gold to the extent that if attacked by Russia and China, would collapse with the Western central banks and all be in a market cabal. So, because we don't have any gold, and that's all in China and Russia, and that's their ace in their sleeve. So you're saying to me that Soros guy is a plot by Trump, that he brought in the Soros guy to get the Soros, maybe, and that's what does Putin and Xi really have up their sleeve? They're not ending the war, and it's costing them, but they have gold to pay for all their weapons. We don't. So I don't know who's fucking with who here. Are we fucking with Putin trying to get him poor, or is he fucking with us? And I would tend to think Putin's fucking with us more than we're fucking with him. He's smarter. Putin's the man. So I think he's smarter than us. Gold up 11 times in the 2000s. So here we are, 24 years in the 21st century, and gold is up 11 times in US dollars and more in many other currencies. And it just shows you the chart where here's gold. So you want to own gold stocks? This is why I say buy the physical, because the gold stocks will not perform. Between 2001 and 2011, gold rose eight times with no single down year. Then there was a 3-year proper correction from 1920 and 2011 to 1046, 2016. Since 2016, gold has gone up for 9 years, including 3 sideways years. Again, it's all price fixed by JP Morgan. It's not the free market. In the last 24 years, we have seen an incredible strong bull market in gold with virtually no one participating. Still, well, the central banks and the Russians and the Chinese are participating. Still, only 0.5% of global financial assets are invested in gold, so virtually nobody understands or invests in it. We understand it, and we invest in it. And I told him that in my response to his tweet. I said, me and my class, all we do is buy gold. So don't assume nobody is smart and buys it. As the graph below shows, gold has gone from 0.2% of global assets in 2001 to 0.5% today. During that time, I've been standing on a soapbox explaining the importance of virtues of gold. Even in my Father of the Bride speech in 2002, still very few own it. But we own it. And most of the banks own it. But a lot of people in Germany own it. Don't kid yourself. We just don't go along. We're not on the news. Hey, I bought 10 ounces of gold the other day. Gold has vastly outperformed stocks in the 2000s. With the similar bull market in stocks, which has been the case in most of the 2000s, no investor would have been out of the stock market. So they're just in stocks. Still, gold has vastly outperformed stocks in this century. Go figure that out. For the last 24 years, the S&P 500, with dividends reinvested, has risen 572%. Oh, but by the way, gold is up 990% for the same period with very little volatility. So you keep wanting to play around in gold and buy stocks and this and your friend with the 401k. If you just buy gold and hold it, you're up 990%. And in stocks, you're only up 572%. So it's not a bad return on investment, is it? Like I say, every $100 that goes up, I make $6,000. And I'm trying to get it up more now that I'm working. Gold ownership is like a hidden, well-guarded secret. Very few, not even professional investors, know that gold has gone up 1,000% or 11 times in this century. Still, very few own gold, and even fewer are aware that gold fulfills the dual function. And this was my thing of being both the ultimate protector and ultimate enhancer of your wealth. So not only are you protected, you've sold your 100,000 for 100,000 in gold. But the kicker is now the 100,000 in gold is going to turn into 500,000 in gold. So you not only have no risk of your 100,000, but now you're actually making good money on it because the demand for gold is so high that the price is just went up $1,000 from 1,700 to 2,700. And these little derivative things will go away. And then here come Russia saying, I haven't coughed all day. Russia coming in saying, you know what, we need to revalue gold to, let's say, 25,000 an ounce. And that will happen because you need a high enough gold price to produce enough dollars, right? Because basically what happens is this turns into a gold-backed dollar, right? So you need to produce it, but you need enough gold. There's not enough gold, so you need the price of gold to be much higher to produce a $5 note and produce, $1 billion. But if gold's 20,000 an ounce, I don't need as many dollars if it's 2,700 an ounce. If you own gold, you never have to worry about the price because on your side stand governments and central banks who will always support gold by creating an endless amount of new money, thus expanding debt and the money supply. This guarantees the continuous inflation directly reflecting in the gold price. Only since 2000 has the dollar lost 92% of its real value in terms. 99% if you go back to 1971. So basically the dollar is worthless and gold keeps going up. And you have no risk in gold. It's easy to get rid of. I can go to the store and say, here's an ounce, give me, but I don't want money for it. So I'll, as I'm telling you, Luke, you'll be buying your house with 2 ounces of gold. And the owner will be very happy to take your gold, believe me. History proves that gold over the medium to long term always reflects the government's irresponsible and opportunistic management of the country. Governments always spend money that doesn't exist in a futile attempt to placate the people and buy votes. Gold substantially undervalued. Let's take a break of all the gold has ever been produced in history. The cube below gives a good picture. So here's what he's talking about. You can see jewelry, you can see central banks, you can see private investments, you can see below ground gold, and you can see other. So most of it is in jewelry and then central banks and private investment. So that's where the gold is. And again, you don't want to own jewelry because it's not, you're paying more. I paid $500 for this, but I only got an ounce of gold, and gold was $250 an ounce. So why didn't I pay $250 for an ounce of gold? That's why I'd rather buy the coins than the jewelry. Now I get the jewelry, for birthdays and you get married and stuff like that. Okay, it's a sentimental. This is my graduation, so it's sentimental. But generally, you're much better in coins. Only 2,001 tons of gold have been produced in history. I thought it was 250. He's saying 201,000 tons of gold. All the gold is assumed to be still around, although some might be at the bottom of the sea and some hidden forever. Just under half, or 93,000 tons, have been used for jewelry. So 93,000 of the 200 is jewelry. You got 80,000 with India and 30,000 with China, 30,000 with India and Russia. That's 150. So something doesn't add up because of 93,000 tons are in jewelry, and China's got 80,000. That's 170. There's only 30,000 tons left. So you can see why there's nothing left. So let's say China's got 60 and Putin's got 20 and India's got 20. But I read where India's got 30. So that's 100, and here's 93. So that's 193 of the 201 that's gone, right? So that's why he's saying all that leaves is the 3,000 tons, and it's gone. China buys it, right? So China digs it up and buys it. What's my Twitter handle? I think it's the Teaser King. I just go into it, but I think it's the Teaser King or Teaser King. You'll see my Niagara Falls picture. Wonder if gold will be revalued overnight or it'll go up like Bitcoin over time. I think it has to be revalued because when Putin comes out with it, he needs, as I just explained, he needs a much higher gold price because of the um, he needs a much higher gold price to produce the dollars, right? So he can't print enough dollars at 2,700. So I think Putin is just going to say it's 10,000 an ounce. And if the problem is if COMEX keeps it at 2,000, everybody will buy it and then sell it for the 10,000. So COMEX has to go up to 10,000, like it or not. And I think the problem Putin has is he doesn't like the U.S. pricing his gold. We have no gold. They have the gold. The Chinese have the gold. Why are we pricing their gold? So they don't like that in the first place. So it will be revalued, and it will be revalued soon. Believe me, everybody's against Trump, and this will definitely hurt them. But now come the very important figures. All right. Just under half, or 93,000 tons, have been used for jewelry. But now comes the important, only 43,000 tons, or 3.6 trillion in private investment gold. If we compare that to the biggest U.S. companies, only Nevada has a market cap of 3.5 trillion, and so does Apple. And then he shows the market values, but these are all bullshit. These are with us printing the this is with us printing stocks that are bullshit. Again, it's algorithms or whatever. Even more astonishing is that all the gold held by central banks globally is just 3.1 trillion, which is Microsoft's market cap. So the shareholders of Microsoft could swap their shareholdings against all the central bank gold in the world. Does that make any sense? That's what it is, but it doesn't make it. I doubt the central bankers would sell their country's gold at the current price, but we shouldn't put it past them as they're a bunch of morons. As mentioned above, they have often sold gold at the bottom against fiat money. As all paper money has gone to zero throughout history, it clearly can't be real money, right? It is only a claim or an IOU issued by your government. Remember what the banker G. Morgan said. Gold is money. Everything else is credit. We want to hold money. We want to hold gold. The dollar on its way to zero. And this is what I taught you at the airport. Dollar on its way to zero. 1971 is 35. 1971 to 2024 is down 99%. Gold is now 2,700, down another further 90 to 90%. 25 to 30, we're looking at least 20,000 or $200,000 gold. So just be patient. It's coming. It's coming very soon. It has to, because they keep printing the dollars to death. That's the formula. The Titanic hits the iceberg. The water's coming in. That's the key. You hit the iceberg. The water's coming in. The boat's going to sink. You print the money and you don't have it backed by gold. It's just a matter of time till the boat sinks. And the boat is sinking because of the printing of the dollar. And so we get on the lifeboat, which is what makes time travel possible, as I keep saying. So it's that is the key, is that the gold, is that the dollar is gone. It might not be gone yet. We know it is gone. So as I said to my friend at work, I said, well, if I'm on the Titanic and as soon as it hits the iceberg and the water's rushing in, 2 and 2 equal 4. Oh, we're going to sink. Get the fuck off the boat. Well, that's the thing. As soon as I see we're printing this kind of money, I get out of the money. I've been out of the money for 3 years. I've been out of the stock market. I know it's going to crash. I've been out of the banks. I've been out of, I bought gold 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Check my videos. It was before Alabama. And that's the key to it. It's like I said, well, I'll go buy euros. No, I can't. I'll buy Swiss francs. No, I can't. I'm fucked. There's nothing I can do except buy gold and silver. And I knew that 3 years ago. So what I'm saying is don't wait till the boat's 99%, and everybody's screaming, oh, the boat's going to sink. We're the lifeboats. No, no, no. We're not waiting for that. We are already in the lifeboats, in the gold and silver, and we're waiting for the boat to sink, and we know it's going to sink. So we know the price is going to go up, as Egon's telling us. So don't just sit back and watch the boat go into the ocean. I mean, that's what, don't stress yourself with, I need it tomorrow or this or that. The longer it stays this price, the more we can buy, especially silver. My God. I'm going to really start pounding silver hard, although I still want my gold. I want my precious. So I want to get that. I want to buy at least 20 more ounces before the year's over, which hopefully I can, but I'll buy more anyway. So to answer the question, look, I don't know. I would assume there'll be a big, it'll 5,000. And then once that's obvious what's going on, then it's 7, 8. It'll do like a Bitcoin where it went from 70 to 90. That's what gold will do. As all government debt increases over time, we know that this debt will never be repaid. Instead, it is inflated away by the constant printing of the new worthless paper, money, and debt until it becomes worthless, which is a de facto sovereign default. So that's how they're going to default. They keep printing it. It ends up having no value. So therefore, instead of coming out saying, I'm not paying you, China and Japan, on your T-bills, I'm just printing the money to nothing. That's why you see China and Japan and some of these countries getting out of the dollar into gold and selling their T-bills back to us saying, give me our money. And they go and buy gold with it because they know at the end of the day, they're not getting paid back. How do we survive as a country if we're this stupid? Because if you just keep printing the money, it's worthless. Our country's based on us selling T-bills to get money to pay for the government and pay for the Social Security and to pay for the interest on the debt and the military. It doesn't come from taxes. It comes from selling these T-bills and getting the money from them. Nobody's going to give us money because why would they? Because they know they're not going to get paid back. So either the banks are going to steal our money, which is what I'm thinking. The stocks you'll never get out. Your Bitcoin, forget about it because you won't be able to put it in the bank. And if you do put it in the bank, you'll never get it out. This is the point. This is the irony of the Bitcoin. If it goes to 100 grand, okay, sell it. Try to get the money. Just try. And that's the scam of the whole thing. Even if it does go to 200,000, you can't get the money for it. It's just there. It's like, forget about it. So that's the problem. That's why we're in gold. Nobody can fuck with us. Remember that this has happened to every currency in history without exception. So they print the money, the worthless paper money and debt until it becomes worthless, which is default. Remember that this has happened to every currency in the history without exception. So Luke, when I say it's going to zero, it's going to zero. I know this stuff before he knows this stuff. Since Nixon closed the gold window in 71, the dollar and most currencies have lost 99% of the value. That's why the whole world is going over the waterfall or in the Titanic. The total market cap of the 10 U.S. companies is $19.2 trillion. Let's look at the cube above again. At today's price, all gold ever produced in history is at today's price, 17 trillion, 2 trillion less than the top 10 stocks. Gold is undervalued because it should not be cheaper than these companies. Now, the companies are not worth that much in reality, but that's what it is. When all the central bank gold in the world is valued at the same price as one major U.S. corporation, we know that this is an absurdity. The stock market is way overvalued because they're just printing money and putting it in. So it's not the market doing it like I was telling you about gold. It's not priced at the free market. As our friend Bill Bonner recently wrote in his wonderful style, sooner or later, the lava flows of red hot credit are going to meet up with the cold reality of rising interest rates. When this happens, most likely stocks, bonds, and real estate will all be burned like Pompeii. Some investors will take a big loss, big deal. Markets are correct all the time, but we're not making predictions. We're just looking for the worst case scenario, and it could be far worse than just a market sell off. What Bill states above is inevitable. It will happen. It's not an opinion. And that's what I keep telling you. This is not my opinion. This is fact. What I'm telling you from Adam Smith and what a market is to prices to inflation to gold is not a fact. It's a master's class. That's what I've learned. And gold's coming rise by multiples is a sine qua non, absolute prerequisite. So it's absolutely going to go. So the more we buy, the more we're worth. So that's why I know you've asked the question, Luke, how much do I need? It's as much as you can carry. You're a kid in a candy store. You can have all the gold, all the candy you can carry. That's what it is with gold. You can have all the gold and silver that you can carry and bring a wheelbarrow, because when this explodes, you're not going to be, I mean, it's going to go through the roof, and you want to be holding it. You don't want to be chasing it. So that's why I say, so your friend's fucked with the 4 million. Maybe show him this. I don't know, but he's fucked because it'll go to zero. And then what's he going to do? He'll have no money, but he's smarter than all of us because he's got $4 million. I guess that makes him smart. And he's going to, and Luke's going to be laughing, going, no. Don't ask me for gold. I'm not giving you any. Luke, a global level playing field is coming. Well, no, it'll be those with gold will be king. Russia, China, India, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, maybe Brazil. Bitcoin is Bitcoin, just like gold is gold. Both are valued in themselves, but have a dollar, euro, yen price according to what it's worth. This is their own courtesy. Well, I disagree 1,000%. Bitcoin is not Bitcoin. It has no value. It's not real. Gold is money. So gold's money will have money. Bitcoin, what is Bitcoin? It's not real. It doesn't have a value. The value is in dollars. Gold does not need to be valued in dollars. Gold will purchase a lot. So you're a little confused there. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. What does that mean? What's a Bitcoin worth? We know what gold's worth, and we know Bitcoin is not gold, and we know it's not money because it doesn't buy things, and nobody wants to sell it, and they're not using Bitcoin properly. If Bitcoin is a money, then why aren't they using it to buy things? No, nobody wants to sell the Bitcoin. They're all buying it and holding it, which is ironic because it defeats the whole purpose of what Bitcoin was supposed to be, which was supposed to be a money. It was supposed to be traded to buy goods and services, but no, that's nobody wants to sell it. So it is not money. It has no value, and gold has a huge value. Gold's way undervalued. Bitcoin's not worth 90,000 and gold's not worth 2,700. Anyway, those are derivative numbers on Bitcoin by Larry Fink. Notice how it went to 99 and that now it came back to 91 or 92. Why did it come down? Who's selling it? Oh, Larry Fink he's doing a put option, and that's why it went down. So you're playing with fire with Larry Fink. And gold's okay. In numerous articles, I have stated the reasons for gold's acceleration in price. In my article, we have liftoff in March this year when gold was 2,000. I said, yes, gold is on the cusp of a major move. Wars continue, inflation rises, strongly due to ever increasing debts and deficits. Currencies continue their journey to zero. The world flees from stocks and bonds in the US dollar. The BRICS countries continue to buy ever bigger amounts of gold. The central banks buy major amounts of gold in its currency reserves instead of dollars. Investors rush into gold at any price to preserve their wealth. And back in August, I said $1 million in gold price and exchange controls, dollar gold and exchange controls. Um, a continued and steep dollar decline in the coming years is a virtual certainty because you keep printing it and it's not worth anything. As there has been no gold window to close since 1971, the U.S. government is almost certain to implement foreign exchange controls as the dollar falls. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes relatively soon, but the timing is irrelevant. The risk is here today, and now is the time to prepare for it. Thus, for Americans, it would be an advantage to have funds or assets outside of the U.S. as soon as possible. Physical gold and silver are clearly the best assets to hold as they also protect against the dollar inflation. Switzerland and Singapore are obvious places to hold gold. Switzerland has a strong currency. I don't know about that, and a very sound economy. They're not backed by gold either, Switzerland. Exchange controls would be unlikely here. What is extremely important is not to hold your precious metals though through a U.S. company or other entity, which the U.S. government can order to return the gold or silver from a foreign vault to the U.S. Hence why I keep my own gold on me. I don't trust anybody with my gold but me. However, as has been pointed out relentlessly, gold is undervalued by multiples. I've also warned that we will not have a 2008 type correction in the gold price for quite some time. But some so-called experts have, for most of the year, warned gold investors that this would happen. Thus, virtually no private investor has bought gold this year in the West, except for our team here. But non-Western central banks, the astute Chinese, and the BRICS countries have. This strong buying will continue to drive the gold price up by multiples in the next few years. Again, strong demand drives price up in something that's limited, and that's what gold is. Let's see. The deep state or neocons who steer Biden are doing everything they can to start World War III by provoking Russia with U.S. and U.K. missiles sent from the U.K. in the remaining 8 weeks before Trump takes over. This is totally ludicrous and irresponsible by an unaccountable and anonymous group of people who cannot stand that the U.S. is losing its hegemony or the reserve currency. Let's hope that the superiority of the Russian Orsnik missiles just fired has made the U.S. military and the world realize that this is a conflict that the U.S., NATO, and the world cannot win. So there's a new missile that Russia has. They don't need nukes. They just can fire this missile, and it's not like it's just a very explosive, very dangerous, but it's not a nuclear. So Russia will not fire a nuclear missile because they know they get fired back on. They have this new missile in place of the nuke, and that's what they're going to fire, and it'll do a lot of damage. Trump clearly is determined to solve the U.S. problems, as he declared in the video, and that's it. So that is the Egon. That is the Egon world. And we will go to college football. So let me stop and do that. So again, Luke, I don't know what it means. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. Bitcoin isn't even real, but okay. Gold is gold. So again, you make the statement like you make the statement about there's gold in Fort Knox because you believe it, even though you can't see it. And I've always argued that we don't have any gold. If we did, we'd show it. But because what happened in Money Heist, if they show they don't have any, we collapse now, so they can't show it. And they probably haven't had it since 1956, the last time they did the audit. So Bitcoin is Bitcoin. It's a very confusing statement. It doesn't. What is Bitcoin's value? Bitcoin doesn't have a value. It is valued in dollars. But the US dollar, even though gold's valued in dollar, it doesn't have to be. Gold can be valued in gold. This is the point I keep trying to make to you, but you don't seem to catch it. Gold doesn't need the dollar to have value. Gold can purchase. If we look at purchasing power, what can gold buy? Gold can buy a hell of a lot. Gold can buy a lot more than it's giving credit for, because it just looks like gold can only buy 2,700, but gold can buy really 27,000. That's why you're going to buy a house with 2 ounces of gold. That's the purchasing power. So if your conclusion, let's give you credit, Bitcoin is Bitcoin, so you're going to go buy a house with a Bitcoin? Good luck, because it won't have a value, because when the dollar collapses, so does Bitcoin. Okay, so let's take the dollar out of Bitcoin. What's Bitcoin's value? Nothing. There is no. It's because it isn't anything. It's not an asset. It's sort of like, this is a collectible. This is the closest I can come to what Bitcoin is. It's a collectible. Only you don't get it. You don't really get the card, but that's how it's being priced. It's a collectible. It's like a Jordan rookie card, only you don't get the rookie card. But okay, Mahomes card. So let's say it's worth $10,000 and the dollar collapses. What's this worth? Well, the Mahomes card isn't worth the Mahomes card. The Mahomes card's worth nothing. It can't be worth anything because it is valued in dollars. Gold doesn't need to be valued in dollars to have a value. Gold's value will triple or quadruple when the dollar goes out. This will not. This will go to zero. Your house will go to zero. A mantle card will go to zero. Your Rolex will go to zero. Your Picasso will go to zero. They will all go to zero because now they're priced in dollars. But gold is real money, as you've brought here to our attention, that it is in the Constitution as real money. So therefore, gold doesn't need to be priced in dollars. And in Rome, in the Roman Empire, they didn't have dollars. They had gold and silver coins, and that's what they use for money, and that's what we'll do. But we'll have gold-backed dollars, so the dollars will be backed by gold instead of gold being backed by the dollars, just like in Roman times. That's what will happen. So a $20 bill will be backed by $20 worth of gold. So you see how gold flips. Now gold everything's priced in gold. You can't price it in Bitcoin because there is nothing. It doesn't exist. I can't hold the Bitcoin. So if I have a Rolex, I can have the Rolex, and somebody can give me gold for the Rolex. That's what the Rolex is now worth in gold. But it can't be worth anything in Bitcoin because it doesn't exist. It's not money. It's just a big Ponzi scheme. It's not anything. It's just thin air. And therefore, that's why I bring the argument up. It's not worth anything. Because if it was worth something, why aren't all the central banks buying Bitcoin instead of gold? That's a question you have to answer for me to believe Bitcoin's worth anything. Explain to me why China has 60,000 tons of gold and all the central banks are buying gold, getting rid of dollars. Why aren't they buying Bitcoin? Explain that to me. And Trump with the Bitcoin knows the dollar is worthless. So he's trying to get out of the dollar. So he's saying, oh, we're going to have Bitcoin. That's not worth anything either, because you can't, it's not even money. To me, it's a collectible. So, so the Mahomes card, let's say it's worth 2,000. It's not money. I can't go to the grocery store with this, right? So I have to sell it to get money to go to the grocery store, but it is an asset, as will the house be. Now, is Bitcoin an asset? Well, can Bitcoin be priced in gold is really your question, because there is no Bitcoin price, right? Bitcoin is not money, so it can't be used as a price. Gold can, right? So you can have a $20 gold-backed currency or $100. We've seen that before. The 40s, the 50s, the 60s, it was a gold-backed currency. In the 1800s and the 1900s, it was a gold-backed currency. So can Bitcoin back a currency? How? It doesn't exist. So that's your problem with Bitcoin. And because nobody will use it for money, then it is not money, because it has to be accepted. I have to be able to take it to a hotel and use it, and go to a restaurant and use it, and go to a grocery store. I can't do that. I can't do it now with gold and silver, but I will. I mean, that's what was happening in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, right? You would take your gold backed currency and you'd go out to eat, and you'd go to dinner, and you'd go to Kroger's, and everything was very cheap because it was gold back. That's why you could buy a house for $5,000, because it was backed by gold, and gold keeps its value. But you can't Bitcoin because Bitcoin isn't money, you can't use it. It can only be a collectible. So it can only be like Mahomes. And people are going, I'll pay 90,000, because people think it's money, but it isn't, especially if nobody wants to sell it. I was watching Sailor do a video. I can't stand the guy, so I won't watch it. But his title is, I will never sell my Bitcoin. Well, then how can it be money if nobody will sell the Bitcoin, even if it goes to $1 million? If the dollar goes out, is the Bitcoin still worth $1 million? No, not at all. Like I said, if this is $2,000 and the dollar goes out, this is worth zero. If you have a $400,000, $500,000 house and the dollar goes out, it's worth zero. And that's in Germany, 1923. The dollar went out, the Deutschmark, and the houses were $200,000, $300,000 houses were going for $100. They would go for 5 ounces of gold at $20 an ounce. That's what they were worth in gold, not in the bullshit dollar. As you print the dollar, it becomes worth less and less. So really, the 100,000 Bitcoin is probably worth like $1,000 in gold. So that's really what it is. So your argument doesn't hold water, because Bitcoin has no value. The value put on it is by the dollar. But don't get confused that gold needs to be in dollars. Gold, everything should be priced in gold, but the government doesn't like it because they can't steal and they can't print it. So the government doesn't like it because they are a bunch of thieves and con artists. Luke, we need the derivatives in gold to break to find its true value. Well, that's why we need a free market. As I pointed out many times, if you would get the derivatives out, well, that's what Putin's doing. So they're doing a physical market for diamonds and precious metals, gold, silver, copper. And that's what he's doing in Russia, is coming up with exactly your point, where it will be a real price. And that's why I'm saying this 2,700 is not close to the real price of gold, and $35 for silver is times it at least by 100. I mean, that's just a joke. There's no way it's $30. How can it be? The inflation keeps going, and yet silver's sitting at $30. Only a fucking idiot doesn't understand that it cannot be worth $30. It must be at least $3,000. Because again, it's priced in this. So if this keeps losing its value, how can silver not go up in value? And gold should certainly be a lot higher. So we're getting the steal of the century, and we'll be fine. And I keep saying, I know you got a lot of silver, Luke. Just smile. You sleep well at night, because you can't get fucked. And get more gold would be better too, if you can. But that's why I say get the fuck out of the stock market. You're better off in the gold and the silver than in the stocks. And I just showed you it's gone up 1,000%, and stocks have gone up 500. So in the regular world, yes, you're right. The silver and gold miners would go up a lot, but this isn't the real world. Nobody wants gold and silver. The Michael Douglases of the world on Wall Street will not buy it. Blue Star is buying Apple and Amazon and that. So there'll never be a demand for the gold. That's the problem with you holding the gold stocks. You'll learn the hard way. We need the derivatives in gold to break. Oh, okay. Bitcoin can be valued in Bitcoin. Hey, you're still on this. Okay, prove it. Give me an example how Bitcoin can be valued in Bitcoin. It makes no sense, because Bitcoin's not money and has no value. It's valued in dollars. Bitcoin's not worth 95,000 Bitcoins. Would love to see a Bitcoin's valued in gold. It would probably be about $1,000, 1,000 gold. It would not be 95,000. That's in this inflated dollars. It would be about $1,000 in gold back. So if we have the gold back currency, which is coming soon, if we have that and your Bitcoin's 100,000, it would be maybe 2 or 3,000 in gold. That's all it would be. It would not be 100,000. Don't kid yourself. Your house, you have a $500,000 house in inflated dollar crap. In gold, it may be 5,000 would be your house. That's it. It's not 500,000 is in this bullshit monopoly money. But in real money, in gold, like I say, it's maybe 5,000. Like I said, in Germany, these $100,000 houses went for $100. They went for 5 ounces of gold. So that was their value in gold was $100. Their value in fiat money was 200,000. So it's probably about that. I showed you Zimbabwe. The Zimbabwe heavily inflated dollar was 30,000. So a dollar would get you in the FX 30,000 Zimbabwe's. But in the gold, the ZIG, which is Zimbabwe's gold back currency, it was 10. So it went from 30,000 to 10. Understand, gold is real money, and that's what you can price Bitcoin in. Don't ever think Bitcoin can be priced in anything. It's not money. It can't be. So don't get confused on that, and don't be stubborn about it. You know, if I could, I would tell you Bitcoin could be, I don't lie and I don't do anything. Bitcoin can't be priced in Bitcoin because there is no such thing. There is no, it is not a currency. It is a collectible. So what you're saying is we could price things in Mahomes. Well, no, you can't, because this isn't money either. And you've told me many times in the Constitution, gold and silver are the money. Well, that's fine. I agree with you. That is where you need to stick with. In the Constitution, gold and silver are the money, not Bitcoin. Nobody spends it. Nobody takes it. You can't give me Bitcoin because I don't even know what to do with it. If I got it, do I need to set up a thing and get a password? And if I lose it, I lose all my money. Is that what it is? So, I mean, I don't know, but it doesn't have a value. It's not money. Money needs to be accepted and used. You go to dinner, you pay with Bitcoin. Then I would believe it's money, but it's not. You can't do it. So anyway, Bitcoin is doing what gold should be. Well, because Bitcoin's not price fixed. So you've got to ask the question, why are they letting Bitcoin run? Because they're setting up people to go broke. Because everybody jumps into Bitcoin and they want you out of gold because they can't control us in gold, right? They don't know we have it. There's nothing they can do. They don't control the gold. Bitcoin they can control by Larry Fink. So as everybody leaves gold for Bitcoin, they're like jumping into a pit, and then the giant's gonna put the top on the cell, and everybody in Bitcoin is going to be in the cell, and us people in gold won't be in the cell. That's the best way I can describe it. You're going to be fucked if you're in Bitcoin. You're going to be trapped, and they're going to fuck. They want to control you. There's your control. You're falling right into it. If you buy Bitcoin and hold it, you're right you're in the concentration camp. That's exactly what they want you to do. That's why it's running. And that's why they're afraid of gold. They don't want you in gold. So they keep the price of gold down so nobody runs into it. Oh, gold doesn't move. I don't want it. As I said, the whole shit is going over the waterfall or in the Titanic. And you got to get to the lifeboat. And the only lifeboat's gold and silver, not Bitcoin. It's not a lifeboat. The central banks are not buying Bitcoin. They're buying gold. Try to at least make sense of that, right? I mean, well, why is Russia buying gold. Why aren't they buying Bitcoin? Because they know it's bullshit. Just go with what Putin does. He buys gold and silver. You buy gold and silver. Don't get it. Don't be confused and go, oh, I got to buy Bitcoin. Look, it's running. Of course, that's the game. But it's running with fake money, so it doesn't matter. It's worthless. You can buy a house with 5 Bitcoin now. Can you? Really? And who's going to take it? What if the guy selling the house, is he going to take Bitcoin? Go try to buy a house with 5 Bitcoin and see what happens. You think the owner is going to take the Bitcoin? What if he doesn't have like what do you need, a wallet? I mean, I know a little bit about it. So it's like PayPal. You need a PayPal account to pay me football. If you don't have a PayPal, I do get some in Venmo, but if you don't have, like, some people like Alyssa can you give me Cash App? I go, I don't have Cash App. I don't use it because I'm worried about getting scammed. So I only do PayPal because that's how I get paid on Teaserking. You can PayPal me, or I guess RIA. That's how I used to pay Jenna, was in RIA, and that's it. I'm not paying. I'm not taking Bitcoin, and so you go to buy a house. Try to go buy a Camry. I'm going there for an oil change on Friday, and I want to go buy a Camry. And okay, let's say there's $100,000 Toyota. Okay, I'll give you 1 Bitcoin for it. He won't take it. This is my point. It's not money. He doesn't want it because since it goes up and down so much, he's worried about getting screwed. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe it's only worth 80,000 today, not 100. So I can't take it because I don't know. I might lose 20,000 on the transaction. Not only that, but he's got to have a Bitcoin account to take it, and then he's got to dump it in his bank and try to get it out. So I could say the same thing. Here's a Rolex, right, in my eBay. So if we can play that game too. I mean, you could buy a house with a Picasso, right? Will the guy take the Picasso? Probably more than he'll take the Bitcoin. All right, so here's the Jordan rookie. Can I buy a house with the Jordan rookie for 500 grand? I don't know. Even though it's worth 500 doesn't necessarily mean it's money. Okay, so here's the Rolex. A Rolex Sky Dweller, $820,000, new with tags. Can I buy the house with the Rolex? Maybe a few people will take it, but I think if they're selling their house, they probably want money for it. So can I buy it? Can I buy an $800,000 house with this Rolex? Theoretically, I am giving him an asset worth 800,000, but it's far easier to take a Rolex, go to the jewelry store and say, if I take this Rolex from my house, I still need to sell it and get the money for it. I can't. What am I going to do with Rolex? I need a house, right? So with Bitcoin, what am I going to do with it? Well, I gotta get cash for the Bitcoin. And how do I do that? Oh, I have to have a wallet and sign up and take it and send it to my bank and then try to get 500,000 out of the bank. So at the end of the day, I got to get this into dollars. But what I'm talking about is gold will be the money, and therefore 2 ounces of gold will buy you the house, and that will be the money. And so the guy takes it and he's got the money. That's the difference that gold offers than this or Bitcoin or Mahomes card or a Jerry Rice rookie. I mean, all these are nice, but they're not money. They're assets. They have a value. So you're giving a value for a value, but they're not gold and they're not silver, which will never go down in value. Luke. Uh, the value of 5 Bitcoin can buy you a house. Yes, convert it into your national currency. No, it's got to be into your bank. If you're in America, it's got to go into your U.S. bank. I'm not sure if you're French. I guess your bank would be France, and then you would download it into your bank in France or Germany or Switzerland. Maybe it's the mark if of the beast. I don't know what that means. Uh, it's like a world currently. I don't know what that means. Yes, convert it into your national currency. Well, you're not going to Switzerland to buy a house with Bitcoin. Again, will they take Bitcoin? And that's the other thing. So, will the owner of the house take the Rolex for his house? Now, maybe if his house was 700,000, you're giving him an $800,000 Rolex, and he says, "Let's go to the jeweler and let me verify it's real." And he says, "Yeah, it's real. Is it worth 800,000?" And the jeweler says, "Yeah, I'll give you 800,000 for it." Then he might take it because the house is going for 700,000, and he'd be okay. But again, he still needs to sell the Rolex to get money to buy the new house or whatever he's planning on doing. So again, that's what we talk about all the time with the cards and the Rolexes. They're not money, they're assets. They have a value. They will continue to have a value in gold. So will your house, so will your car. It'll be gold backed currency, and then the price will be determined by the market what your house, that's 500,000, and that's what I keep telling you, 2 ounces of gold will buy the house because it's real money. He doesn't need to dick around with it, and the value of the gold will be so high, and the value of his house will be zero. So he'll take, let's say it's 20,000 an ounce in gold. He'll gladly take the 2 ounces of gold because his house is worthless. So any money you give him will be a pleasure, right? And then you're not going to give him the Rolex. Well, you don't know what the Rolex is. It's $820,000. The dollar goes to zero. The Rolex goes to zero. Then it gets repriced by our little gold thing. And somebody offers this guy $1,000 in gold backed currency, and he jumps all over it. Oh, wow, that's great. Yeah, I'll take it. Because remember the panic that's going to set in. Everybody's stuff is going to be worthless. Your house, your car, your Rolex, your card, your Mantle card, they're all worthless. Your Bitcoin, it'll be worth zero because there won't be dollars anymore. So everything in dollars goes to zero because it doesn't exist. So how can you value anything? And then it's going to be, well, I do have these gold-backed currencies, these nice gold-backed currencies from Russia. I got $100 one. Will that buy your house? And it's gold, and so it might. But if you have an ounce or two of gold, then it's even easier. Then you already have the gold, and that's what's going to happen. If the medium of exchange works fine, the value will be what's fucked up. You don't know what things will be worth in gold. You know what they're worth in dollars now. You don't know what they'll be worth in gold. So if this is worth $2,000 now, it'll go to zero. And then what's it going to be worth in gold? And that'll be the transaction. And that's what the market at play does. The market says, I'll give you $100 gold back currency for it. And you're going, well, wait, it was worth 2,000. Yeah, but that was in fake money. Okay, I'll give you 200 gold back currency for it. You go, fine. That's now the value of the card, 200 gold back currencies. And that's what Bitcoin will do. It'll be valued in gold, probably. But it will go to zero until it is valued in gold. And then how they come up with that, I don't know. That's between the market. That's between the buyer and the seller. It's the same thing. I was talking to somebody at the grocery store, and we, so I talk economics all the time, and I say, I say it's all. Oh no, I was talking to a guy at work, and it's all about free trade. So if a steak is $30, you don't buy it. It's not a good trade for you. It's too much. No. You want $30 for a steak. It's not a matter of you can afford it or not. It's a matter of, is it a good trade? And it's not, it's too high. Well, today I bought 2 New York strips for $10. Okay, that was a good trade. $10 for the steaks, Thanksgiving, fine. That's what I agreed to. But at 30, it's too high and it's not a good trade for you. So what you're doing is you're trading this for goods and services. So you're going to trade something for this. If you want this, okay, what are you going to give it for me? That's what free trade is. That's the beautiful part about America and Adam Smith and Austrian economics. It's all fair trade. Both sides should benefit from the trade. So in the house, will the guy selling the house for $500,000 now decides and finds out it's worthless because there's no dollars. So now the house is worthless. So now I walk up to him with 2 ounces of gold coins. Now, at what point do we both think it's a fair trade? Now, for us, we bought the gold at 1,700. It's for us, it's a fair trade because what we paid for the gold. But let's say we paid $20,000 for the gold for an ounce. Is it a fair trade? Probably not, because the house, who knows what it's worth? It's not worth $500,000 anymore because that doesn't exist. So you're in Rome and they take the gold and silver out of their coins. Now, how do they buy things? Because there is no more gold and silver to buy anything with. See how the plot thickens? So you've got to revalue all the prices. How much is a can of tuna? Probably a tenth of an ounce of silver. That's about as low as you can go, right? That's what most things will be priced in at the grocery store. Tenth of an ounce of silver, a dime, let's say a mercury dime or a quarter. A steak might be a quarter, but that's where the prices will go. Now, how do we get paid at our jobs? You make 100 grand. Well, wait, now what do I get paid? I get paid in gold. Oh, well, I want 2 ounces of gold for my job. But gold will not be 2,700 an ounce. It'll now be 30,000 an ounce. So how do you pay me? Well, I'll take 2.5 ounces for pay. That's what happens. So the more gold we buy now, the better off we are, because when everything hits, then nobody will have gold but us and the central banks, and therefore the people selling their items will be happy to take a quarter ounce of gold for golf clubs or something like that, or an ounce of silver for tennis racket. That's what will happen because the values of the gold and silver will be so high. And the people who don't have, those are the ones that are going to be scrambling, going, I need to feed my family. I need money. Only the dollars aren't money. So your friend with $4 million is not going to be able to feed his family because he won't have anything. It'll be zero. This is what I try to tell you to tell him. He won't listen. Okay, well, when the shit hits the fan, as Egon's saying, and the dollar goes to zero, sorry, buddy, I tried to tell you, you wouldn't listen. I'm not going to give you gold that's now worth 20,000 an ounce. I told you to buy it at 2,700. You didn't listen. Don't blame me. I told you what to do. And so that's what the problem is. And it's all got to be repriced. But if you have the gold now, it's not a big deal for us because we paid so little for it. It's the new people who don't even have it, who have the assets. What's a fair trade in gold and silver for the asset? For the mantle card, what should I give you for it? I'll give you an ounce of gold for the mantle card. That's it. That's all you're going to get, which would be 30, 40,000. Even for a rookie mantle, it's going to be 1 ounce of gold. And the guy with the mantle card, it depends how badly he needs the money. If he needs the money and he's got the mantle card, he'll give it to you for 1 ounce of gold, maybe 2 ounces. Well, it's mantle and it's his rookie. Oh, yeah, I'll give you 2 ounces. That's the point. These people are so blindsided. They will have assets, but they won't have any money. And they need the money. So they need to trade their assets for the money. I have a Rolex, but I need money. I need to eat. So I'm going to trade you the Rolex, but I want a fair trade for it. And so we'll go, I'll give you an ounce of gold for it. And the ounce will be 20, 30,000. And then he will Say, yeah, I need the gold. I need to eat. I got a family and I have an asset that I can't feed my family with. Can he sell the Rolex? I don't know. You put it on eBay. What are you going to get for it? Only people with gold and gold backed currency can bid on it. So there's a pretty short list, right? We're prepared. They're not. So when the shit hits the fan, nobody has gold backed currency because nobody has money. They will have assets that they will trade for the gold, which makes us, we are in control because we have what they want. Now we want fair trade. What's that going to be? Let's see. Yeah, I've always wanted a metal rookie. Yeah, I got some gold here. Yeah, I'll give you an ounce. You want to feed your family? You need the gold. I'm sure we'll be buying some nice mantle cards with the gold, right? That's how it will work. And the grocery store will be nothing but mercury dimes and silver quarters. That's what things will cost at the grocery store. So the more you stock up on silver, which you have a lot of, Luke, that's how it will. That's the whole point. It's all free trade or fair trade and free trade. And Putin and Trump with his tariffs will blow up in his face. Nothing good can happen when the government gets involved and starts putting tariffs, making things more expensive. Nothing good can possibly happen from that. I tell you over and over what is needed for a country. Oh, yeah, you need low taxes, low government spending, gold standard, free trade, and the Constitution as a rule book. That's a successful country. Well, where is tariffs? That's not low government. That's not free trade. The only thing that works is a gold standard, but none of all the governments are so corrupt. Nobody wants it. So I'm sitting in the lunchroom and I'm seeing, whatever country. Oh, they're trying to get their inflation down. In this country, they're trying to get their inflation down, and I'm laughing, going, raising interest rates will not lower your inflation. Sorry, fellas. You guys are a bunch of morons running these countries. That's why they're all going broke. How can no country have a gold standard? And yet everybody knows that's the only way to save the country. But all the Keynesian politicians are against gold because they want to print, because they're all a bunch of scumbags. And that's what happens. Luke, the mark of the beast. What do you, is it the devil? When gold derivatives break, dollars will flow out of Bitcoin into gold. Until then, Bitcoin is easily exchanged into dollars right now. Okay, I'm not arguing that. When gold derivatives break, dollars will flow out of Bitcoin into gold. I don't agree with that. Nobody's selling their Bitcoin, and there's not enough gold out there to buy. If everybody sells their Bitcoin, there's only 3,000 tons of gold available at 32,000 ounces a ton. So there's not enough gold for all the Bitcoiners to sell it for the 90,000 and go buy. If 100 people with 90,000 Bitcoin sold it tomorrow and said, I'm going to buy gold with it, there's not enough gold for them to buy. That's the problem. You've waited too long. There's not enough left, as Egon said. 93,000 tons are in jewelry. The others are in the central bank and then the private banks of Russia and China and Putin's basement and India and Saudi Arabia. There just isn't enough out there at $2,000 an ounce to buy it. Now, at a higher ounce, it would be available. If it was 50,000 an ounce, because then you'd only buy 10 ounces of gold would take care of your Bitcoin. But now it's too cheap for everybody because there's not enough ounces to buy. So it can never work. Selling the Bitcoin, you're fucked. If that's what you're going to do, you're fucked. You could sell some now, and that's what I advise. Is like I advise your friend with $4 million. The longer he waits, he won't be able to find it, and it won't be affordable for him. And his $4 million will be worth $40,000. As I said, I was talking about Bobby Bowe in the break room today, And the guy said, "Oh, that was really smart. He gets $1 million a year for 30 years." I said, "That was the stupidest thing he could have done because of the time value of money and the inflation of the money. The $1 million he got in year one was $1 million. The $1 million he gets this year is worth about 10 grand. Bobby's getting fucked." And Bobby said, I said, call to the Mets and try to get paid in gold. And he said he tried to, and they wouldn't do it. Well, I'm not surprised because it would cost them a lot more than $1 million to buy the gold. So Bobby's fucked. Bitcoin is usually no, okay. Gold could be revalued at 150,000 an ounce overnight. Well, we can pray for that. It has to be revalued versus the current price of things. Yes, because it's not at its real price. We need gold to get to a free market price. We need the invisible hand to get the government out of it and let free trade take over. Okay, how much are you going to give me for gold? You're not getting my gold for $2,800. Again, I told you that story. I'm in the gold store, and the guy tells me, says, "We need some eagles, some 1 ounce eagles, and we know you have some. I'll give you 2,000 an ounce for it." So it must have been like 1,900 must have been the ounce. And I told him, add a zero to it. For 20,000, I'll sell you an ounce, not at 2,000. Because A, I don't want to get back into dollars. I don't want to get back on the Titanic. I'm trying to get off the Titanic. And two, I know the real value is much, much higher than 2,000. It's much, much higher than 2,700. So we know that. So therefore, you'd be an idiot to do that. So that's why I'm saying you're going to get to a point where there's no more gold to get. All 201,000 tons are out, right? They're all in the central banks. They're in Putin's basement. They're in Xi's swimming pool. They're in India's swimming pool and the Saudi Arabia King's swimming pool. There's nothing left. What am I going to sell? What's a good free trade for me? Well, fuck, if 2,700 is not a free trade for me, it's not a fair trade because I know it's worth a lot more. I'm not letting it go for under 10 grand, but really 20. I'd only let an ounce or two go for 10. I'd start letting a few ounces go at 20, 25 because that's a fair trade for me, not 2,700. You got to be fucking kidding me. So that's really the point of it. There is no way the fair trade is going to work. So that's if we do Luke's way and we get a real value, yeah, you're probably not far off at 150,000 an ounce because people will need it because there's nothing else, right? Everything's valued in dollars, goes to zero. I need money. Okay, what do I? Okay, I got a Mantle rookie card that's $800,000. I give you 2 ounces of gold for it, and that's where the gold will start rising. Is they're desperate for the gold. They'll panic like the Titanic. I love that example. So they're all trying to get onto a lifeboat, and the lifeboat is gold. This is your lifeboat, so everybody wants to get on it. And like the Titanic, there's not nearly as many lifeboats as there are people. There's not nearly as much gold as there are people needing gold. And we just sit back and watch the frenzy happen. And the difference is when gold hits 100,000 an ounce, that's real. Bitcoin is not real. Amazon is not real. Apple, the stock values are nowhere near reality. They're all bullshit. They're trying to make the economy look good. That's the problem. It's all lies. It's all Madoff, but not gold. Gold is so undervalued. So if you understand it's undervalued, you go buy as much of it as you can because you know you're going to barter it later and you're going to buy a nice Rolex for an ounce of gold. And you're going, I paid $2,700 for that and I'm getting an $80,000 Rolex. Yeah. Okay, that's fair. I'll do it. But because people will need the gold and there's not enough gold, they'll do it and that'll revalue it. Now, it won't even be 150,000 an ounce because remember, there is no dollars. You can't price gold at $150,000 because there is no dollars to price it at. Gold then becomes one Rolex watch, one Mickey Mantle card, one $500,000 house, or two for $500,000 house. Silver then takes you to the grocery store, fills your basket, and you have an ounce of silver and you fill your basket. That's how the revaluing will take place, because most people don't have it. And it's the only boat, and it's the only lifeboat there is. Understand, it's the only lifeboat there is gold and silver. You can't use Swiss francs, British pounds, yen, or yuan. It can only be gold. And who has all the gold? China, 60,000 tons of it, and Russia, 20,000, and India, I think 30, and who knows what Saudi Arabia has. So most of the gold's there, and the central banks have, 1,000 tons here and 2,000 tons there. There's nothing left, but a lot of people in the West are going to need it. And that's where the bidding war begins. The UK, the Canadians, the Americans, only people smart enough to follow my logic are going to be saved, right? It's like Noah's Ark. Only us getting on the ark are going to be saved. Everybody else is going to be in the flood. So if you're smart enough to get on the ark, then you're safe. Well, if you're smart enough to get in the gold or do Rumpelstiltskin every other week, where you get your paycheck and the excess money, you buy gold, you turn your money into gold, and that's where it'll pay off, because we'll have the gold. And when gold flies, and I know you get jumpy, Lou. Oh, well, when's it going to, when? Well, just, it's going to be soon, because it has to, because the dollar cannot stay, and there's nothing the government can do. My friend at work says, well, the government won't let it happen. I go, they don't have a choice. What are you talking about? Do you think the Romans wanted it to happen? Do you think the Germans wanted it to happen, and the Spanish and the French and the British? They didn't want the gold to go to nothing, and they didn't want to inflate their money to zero. But once it happened, there was nothing they could do. They can't control the market. And so when everybody starts, they don't want the dollar because there's too much, and they want gold, and it's a shortage of gold, price goes to the moon. And we're just sitting back enjoying the fireworks, because that's what is going to happen. It's always happened, and it will continue to happen. We know that. We're not stupid. We use common sense. We see all the central banks buying gold. They're not buying Bitcoin. They're not even buying silver yet. They will buy silver when they run out of gold. That's the squeeze he's talking about. When the demand for gold far outweighs what they got in COMEX, that's when COMEX blows up. Putin, on the other hand, is really forced into a gold-backed currency, because the ruble is not worth anything. And therefore, if the ruble is not worth anything, and he's got the war going on, and he's got to fire missiles, and he's got to feed his arm, then that's what happens. And then that's why the gold-backed currency is coming. He needs money to pay for the war, so he's going to go to his gold, and he'll start cashing it in so he can play with the missiles and play with the rockets. I heard he gave showers and new uniforms to the men, and he's feeding them. And one of the generals that I listened to, MacArthur, McGregor, whatever, said that's when they're getting ready. That this will be the coup d'etat, because they want to get the men rested for the last attack here, because he's getting fed up with these missiles being sent. Like, what are they doing from England, sending missiles into Russia? You can't invade Russia. That's a no-no. What is he doing? What are they doing? They want this war. I don't know what they're thinking. The war is over. 73-0. It's been over. What the fuck are we invading Russia for? Or what point? Make them go bankrupt? Well, that ain't happening. To get these minerals? That ain't happening. What are you doing? So, it's just a real scratch your head. Why do you want to get invaded by Russia? Is that what you want? You want Putin to not nuke you, but send these other rockets? And he won't. He'll only have to send one or two, probably to not a crowded area, just to make a point. Look, we have these, and he doesn't want to nuke anybody. He wants to do business. He wants to sell his oil and his gold and his diamonds to everybody. That's what he wants. He doesn't want to kill anybody. He's a businessman. And what was that in the Godfather? He says, "Well, bullets are a big expense." I think that was in the opening when what was his name? Anyway, the guy who tried to kill the Don, um, and he was a serious man, but he said, "Oh, the bullets are a big expense. I don't want to use bullets." Okay, Luke, you have a good day, good class. Yes, happy Thanksgiving. Now let's turn quickly to football. So let's talk pros, and then we'll get into the Friday. Um, then we'll get into the Friday college. I guess we'll get into the Friday. Let's do the Friday college first. So your Friday games. Oh, okay. Well, actually, tomorrow you got Tulane 13.5, 55 to Memphis. That number hasn't moved. They're both A teams. I think they both need it to win their divisions. I didn't write it down. I wrote it down last week. Tulane. No, it's Army and Tulane and SMU. So Memphis isn't there. So Tulane probably needs it to clinch their division. And then we go to Friday. We start with Ohio 17-52 over Ball State. That's up from 14. Let's see. Wisconsin 1.5, 41.5. This went down from 44, 41. Wisconsin's an under, Minnesota's a B. Navy East Car. East Car's now gone favorite, 2.5. So Navy started a 1. East Car 2 and 56. So the total hasn't changed. East Car's an over team and playing very good ball, new quarterback, and Navy's been having they ran into Notre Dame, so it's tough. Colorado, Coach Prime, 16.5, 65 to Oak State. Oak State, I don't know, they're puzzling. They sometimes don't show up, and then sometimes they score 50 points. Colorado, I thought had a good defense till they ran into whatchamacallit for Kansas, the running back, and they scored every time they had the ball, Kansas. So Colorado, weak defense did hurt them. And Kansas showed a pretty good offense. They just buried them. Boise, 18.5, 1957. We'll go there. It was 20, so we'll go down to 18.5. 57, up from 56. Oregon State. I think they lost to Washington State pretty close. Boise with Gentry. But they haven't been blowing teams out lately. And let's see. Oregon State has a 29 defense. They should score. Bowling Green, 339 to Miami of Ohio. Bowling Green, 339. Oh, this went way down. This was 41, now 30. I know it's going to get cold, but I didn't see snow in Green Bay, and I'm not seeing just some cold, but not storming. So I'm wondering if that's going on. Bowling Green, Miami. We got Texas State, South Alabama. Texas State 161. So now Texas State's favorite. South Alabama was 61. Hasn't moved. You got an A team in Texas State, 23 defense, and a B team in South Alabama, 24 defense. They both can score. So not sure what to do with this game. Colorado State, 658.5 to Utah State. That really hasn't moved. 60 will go down to 59. Utah State's been explosive the last 7-8 games, 37 defense. Colorado State's an under team with a 23 defense. Old Mississippi State. Old Miss 26-61. Number hasn't moved. Mississippi State went to Van Buren. They've been scoring a lot. Their defense still sucks, 34. And Old Miss is an A team with the 14 defense who sometimes scores and sometimes doesn't. But their defense is very strong. So it's kind of hard to go over in this game. I like the over at first, but not with this defense. Now, Old Miss should score a lot of points because Old Mississippi State's got a 34 defense. And then Old Mississippi State should be able to score something on Old Miss. So I don't know. Old Miss could kill them, or it could be high scoring. I'm not sure. Liberty, 2.5, 47.5 to Sam Houston. Now, here is a live dog, I would think. Sam Houston, good team, under team, 20 defense. Stanford, San Jose State, 2.5, 54.5. Stanford's a W, played Cal pretty close, beat Louisville, so they're starting to come on. San Jose State's been okay, 26 defense. Tired. It'll be a pleasure to sleep in the next 4 days. Iowa, 4, down from 6, and 40. We'll call it 39.5. Iowa at home is much better than Iowa on the road. They don't have McNamara. He's out, so they got a new quarterback, so they run a lot. Nebraska's an under team with a good 20 defense. We'll see what happens. This is a tough game. Georgia Tech. Georgia 19.5 was 20. And 51.5. This was 54. So they're playing around with these totals. The analytic robots, the AIs, are playing around because it went from, I was going to go from 54 to 50. There's not that much betting on an under game with Georgia and Georgia Tech because Georgia doesn't have the defense that they normally do, and they've been passing a lot, so they can score. I think that's kind of a high line, actually. Utah, UCF 9.5, 46.5. This was 8. This has gone to 9, let's call it. And 49 went down to 46.5. I don't know what's going on with these totals. Should not all be going down 3.5. There is not weather in Central Florida. All right, let's go to Saturday. K-State, Kansas 1.5, 61.5 to Baylor. Kansas has been playing great ball. An A team, 24 defense. Baylor, always a strong offense with the 26 defense. So they're a very strong over team. Kansas lit up Colorado last week. So this game's been moved to noon. Texas Tech, 364.5 to West Virginia. Both teams are over. Both are very explosive. Duke and Wake. I'm not going to go through every game. Duke 4.5, 53.5. Number hasn't moved. Duke's an E team playing pretty well. Wake's an over team, 33 defense. Louisville 3.5, 49 to Kentucky. Louisville is the B team. Kentucky's a good SEC team. They're an under team. They don't score that much, but they got a pretty good defense, a 20 defense. So this should be a competitive game. This is a game that's got me perplexed. Army 750 5 to UTSA. I have a case for both teams. Army is an A team with a 14 defense. UTSA is an over team playing very well lately, very strong with the 31 defense. So Army's going to have a hard time, but can Army run the ball down UTSA's throat and not let UTSA have a lot of possessions? That's always the problem with Army, although they are throwing it. But as you saw, they collapsed against Notre Dame like Navy did. Michigan, Ohio State, the Big Daddy game. Ohio State 20, 43.5. This number hasn't moved. I don't know what to do here. It's a rivalry game. Michigan's going to play. They got a pretty good defense. They have no offense. Ohio State, I don't know. They don't seem to be explosive. They barely beat Penn State. They played well against Oregon. They barely beat Nebraska. Even beating Michigan State and Iowa 35-7 was not impressive. It seems like they just score a little and not a lot. So that's my point with them. I don't know. It's a big number in a rivalry, although it is a triple revenge game. But Michigan sees them enough that they know how to play them. So I don't know what to do here. No, it's not. Oh, let's take Ohio State minus 14. I don't think it's that easy. Now, will they blow them out? They could, and that's the key. But will they? All right, Tennessee 11, 48.5 to Vandy. That number hasn't moved. Illinois 7.5, 44 to Northwestern. Okay, and let's Clemson 349 to South Carolina. That number hasn't moved. Coastal Carolina is Georgia State's 1 and 55. So Coastal Carolina was 1.5. Now Georgia State's 1. Okay. And the 55 hasn't moved. Both teams have 30 defenses. Georgia State's a W, but they scored a lot on Texas State last week. Coastal Carolina is an over team. So I'm not going to call Georgia State a W after what they did to Texas State. I'll put them as an E. See, that's where I lose is I've got the team rated points wise. You're a W. You're an over. You're this. You're that. You've got to verify the quarterbacks. When the quarterback changes, they're not. You can't look at the full chart. So that's when that's what happened last week was with Texas State. I thought, oh, they're an over team, and Georgia State's an under as an E, so they're not gonna or a W. So they'll just score all day on them. And Georgia State put up 50 points. Well, wait, they're a W team. So you still get fooled by the grades. All I can do is grade them in the ways by taking the totals. But that's why you got to look at the last 4 or 5 games and try to figure out, are they really an E team or are they an over team now? The quarterback switched. They're now better than they were. And that's really what you're looking at. And that's what the difficulty is. That's why maybe you stick with the Big Ten and the SEC or the Big 12, just 1 or 2 conferences. And then you can do that and go, well, let me look at the last 5 games, especially now they're all conference games. So you should have a really good beat on these. But it's these smaller teams, the Georgia States and Coastal Carolinas. What have they been up to the last 5 games? Because they gotten blown out by Alabama and Georgia, skewing it, or they played the high school teams early and it skewed it. Now you've got them, like I think Ole Miss was that. They killed the first couple teams in Tennessee. You thought, they're explosive. And once they got in conference, they're scoring 20 a game. They're not. So they fooled you because against the garbage teams, they really lit it up. But against the better teams, they didn't light it up. They had trouble. And that's where the hard part comes in. Yeah, we got to have some fun. Southern Miss and Troy. Troy 17.5 against the worst team in college football besides Clark Kent, 48.5. Troy, that number hasn't moved. BC 549 over Pitt. Pitt's falling apart. Quarterback's injured. I don't know if he's playing or how healthy he is. Let's see. SMU 13.5, 57 to Cal. If I can find it. Yeah, there it is, 13. So it's pretty much stayed the same. Miami is 11-67 to Syracuse. That should be points in that game. Miami's defense isn't that good. Syracuse can light up. They can score, and they are at home. I wouldn't be surprised if they upset them, but I think you're going to see a lot of points in that game. So I've got to add that to my laundry list of games. Arizona State is now 8.5 and 9, 53.5 to Arizona. This is revenge, and Arizona State needs it to win their division. Arizona's out of it. They're an E team with a 30 defense. Arizona State, good quarterback. Scatterboo, a good running back. A 22 defense. So they've switched where Arizona State's the real good team this year, and Arizona's not that good. It is a rivalry, and it is at Arizona State. But it is at Arizona. So this is revenge game. Ohio State, Michigan's the first one. This is second, and Oregon, Washington's the third. UCLA, 8.5, 46.5 to Fresno State. This went down. This was 10. Yeah, now it's 8.5. And 46. 8.5, 46 to UCLA. To Fresno State. Fresno State's been struggling with Mikey Keene. UCLA's starting to play better. Notre Dame, USC. Notre Dame, 7.5, 51.5. But the game's at USC where they always have a little bit of problems. Anthony Davis, fortunately, is not playing for USC. Notre Dame, very strong defense, and they are running the ball down their throats. Should be a good game, though. These always are. Penn State, 24.5, 50 to Maryland. That's the same. Alabama, 11.5, 52.5 to Auburn. How's Alabama going to be after getting murdered and causing them the playoff to Oklahoma? Will they be dejected and gone, or will they be fired up that they got embarrassed? And this is where the coach comes in. I don't know. DeBoer is a great coach. I can't believe DeBoer got killed at Oklahoma. He didn't get killed at Oregon last year, and he didn't get killed against Texas in the playoff game. So I guess Penix must be one hell of a quarterback because Penix won all those games. Milrose must suck because in the big game, where was he against Oklahoma? How could they get killed by Oklahoma? South Carolina beat Oklahoma. Missouri beat Oklahoma. Mississippi beat them, and Tennessee beat them. How the fuck could Alabama get killed by them? It just, nothing made sense. Picks. Missouri, 354 to Arkansas. North Carolina fired their coach. I never thought he was a good coach. 3.5, 55.5 to NC State. So how's North Carolina going to play with the reserve coach? Michigan State, 247 to Rutgers. I don't see how Michigan State can be favored over anybody. Let's see. TCU, 3.5, 58.5 to Cincinnati. That's about the same. A little bit of money. TCU went from 2.5 to 3.5. App State, Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern, 2.5, 62 to App State. Can't find them. Oh, they're there. Georgia Southern 2.5, 62. That number hasn't changed. Indiana is now 28.5, 29, 56.5 to Purdue. Purdue's a Z team. Indy really needs to play big to get into the playoffs. They can't beat Purdue 21-0. Look for a 60-point win here. I don't think it's revenge. I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter. Purdue's the worst team. They're a Z team. And Indy's a strong team. Indy really held Ohio State. They scored on a punt return, Ohio State, and the punter dropped the ball just before halftime, and Ohio State scored. So if you really look at it, offensively, Ohio State only got 17 points on Indiana. I don't count the last touchdown. That was a bullshit one. So it really was 17-15. Now, Indiana scored and then didn't show up the rest of the game, but their defense certainly played well. So I give Indiana credit, and then Indiana's going to have a field day, Purdue with the 38 defense here. Florida State. Florida is 16.5, 45.5. Got it. They switched all these games around. I'm on both sheets instead. It normally is in order. Florida 14-45. So now they're up to 16.5 from 14, which makes sense. Florida State's terrible. Florida's been playing good ball, rivalry game. So we will see. It's got to be revenge because Florida State went undefeated last year. LSU 6-47 to Oklahoma. Bobby's game. Bobby's going to play, I think. He's pretty pissed off at LSU. So how's Oklahoma going to be after this big emotional win? We saw what happened to BYU. They lost to Kansas. We saw Utah lost to Colorado. So this is the point. You've got to be very careful with how they play after the emotion, right? Huge emotion, and then, oh, shit. And they got to go to LSU, and it's a Saturday night. I'd be surprised if LSU doesn't win this game. Iowa State, 2.5, 51.5 to Kansas State. Fuck me. Again, it's on the other sheet. Iowa State, 2.5, 51.5. The line really hasn't moved. This is really A against A. This is probably a dog play. Hard to say. Kansas State hasn't been playing that great. Iowa State's, lost to Kansas, but so's everybody else lately. Kansas should be a playoff team, but because their record isn't good enough, they won't be. But they just beat Iowa State, and they beat Colorado, and they beat BYU. All these really good teams. So at what point are they not a real good team? They lost to Kansas State 28-27. As far as I'm concerned, Kansas should be a playoff team, and I don't think they'd lose because I don't think anybody could handle this Neal guy, the running back. Oregon, 18.5, 51 to Washington. This is a double revenge. They lost to them twice last year. And now you got DeBoer gone, Penix gone, and Oregon got Gabriel, and the coach is still there, and it's in Oregon. Let's check the weather. Hello. Well, we'll go back to that. Texas, 5.5, 49 to A&M. I'm getting the gateway timeout, so this is so busy. So let's pass. We'll come back to that. But I think the weather's okay. I'm sure I already checked it. That's our third revenge game. Texas A&M. So I don't know. I think the other game's at Jerry World. I think TCU or Texas at Jerry World. So this game's probably at A&M. Good luck for Texas. This is going to be a tough game for them. This is probably AT's the dog. Yeah, they're both A teams. Texas, the 12 defense, A&M 22. I guess it'll be low scoring, and T's the dog. Vegas 17.5, 55.5 to Nevada. Vegas, much better team. The line's pretty much where it was. Interesting game. BYU. Oh, well, let's make this the 10:30 game. This was not a 10:30 game initially. This was supposed to be an afternoon game. So now this is a 10:30 game. BYU 13-41. Houston, Houston with a pretty good defense, no offense. BYU an 18 with the 20 defense. So we will see. BYU must win this game to win their division. Houston's gone. They haven't had a good. Chris came and they beat Kansas State, and I got all excited, and then they lost to Arizona, and I'm like, oh, okay, that'll teach me to bet on Houston. BYU needs the game. They'll probably win big, but we'll see. And our last game is New Mexico, Hawaii. New Mexico 2.5, 61.5 to Hawaii. That number hasn't changed. New Mexico's an over team, 38 defense. Hawaii's a W team. They've been not scoring, and they had a good defense, but now it's a 26 defense. All right, so let's quickly just look at tomorrow's pros. Hello? Wow, Detroit's down to 9.5. And 47.5 is the total. From what I could tell, St. Cloud and the other guy were playing. The tackle was probably not. Let's look at injuries. Chicago has nobody injured. That's hard to believe. Detroit, Taylor Decker, the tackle is out. Okay, they got replacement. Montgomery's questionable with the shoulder. St. Cloud is questionable with the knee, but he's going to play. And I thought Montgomery was too. Arnold, the terrible cornerback who always gets pass interference, has got a groin. And this other Davis cornerback is out with the knee. Khalif Raymond is the receiver. He's like fourth string, injured with the foot. So that's the only thing I can think of. 9.5, that's 3.5. Some of you 7-point teasers get the game under 3, and it's a much bigger bet. Anyway, Dallas 3.5, 37.5. To the Giants. So you've got Cooper Rush against Danny DeVito. No, I don't even know if Danny DeVito's playing. I don't know who they're back. I think Drew Lock's the backup. So New York, Danny DeVito's questionable with the forearm. He's not playing. If he can't throw the ball and he's questionable now, he's not going to be ready tomorrow. Don't kid yourself. Otherwise, I don't know anybody on this team to even make a comment. Dallas, Cooper Rush has an injured knee, but as far as I know, he's playing. Let's see. CeeDee Lamb, he's, I don't know. Fuck, they got enough injured guys. Zach Martin, the guard's out. Ferguson, the tight end's out. The rest are injured, so they'll play. And last but not least, Green Bay, 3.5, 47.5. It's going to be cold, but it's probably not going to be snow. You can still get a 3, 47. Let's look at the weather. So you get a weather here. So it's going to be cloudy, so there's no snow. It's 24 degrees, so to be cold. Wind about 11 miles an hour shouldn't be a major issue there. So, I keep hearing this idiot say, "Oh, it's snowing in Green." It's not going to snow. It's clear. There's no snow. They called the rain, and it rained the whole game. But here, it's just cold. But I'm not worried about Miami dealing with the cold. I mean, they'll put on the skin diving suits like the Bears used to do. I remember Dan Hampton and the Mongo, McMichael, they'd wear the skin diver clothes, and they were fine. Injuries, Miami. Let's see, Jalen Ramsey injured knee. Cornerback Fuller out with a concussion. Tyreek Hill injured with the wrist, but he's playing. I'm sure that's hurting him. In Green Bay, R. Dobbs, wide receiver, out. E. Cooper, linebacker, out. Injured. Jacobs injured with rest, so he's not injured. How stupid is that? He's injured with rest. Like he didn't practice. Well, if they're resting him, he's not injured. Jameer Alexander, cornerback, is out. So a couple of key losses for them, Dobbs and Alexander. And that's it. So that's tomorrow's lines. I have played 2 of those games. Again, in a teaser, I'll update that tonight. Is Minnesota 25-3 in a teaser? As far as I know, they're the best. But I'll go through everything. So I'm going to do that after this, and I can stay up late because I don't have to get up for work and get that. And again, it's only Wednesday, so you're a little thrown off with the holiday. That's why I only want to get into the Thursday, Friday games because I'm not really prepared for Sunday yet. But I wouldn't be prepared. Usually I post them Friday, so I have to post these now. So I did post the pro game, and I did post the lock. So I have a nice long lock, double lock, the 2 pro games with a couple of college games. Oakland and Kansas City. Kansas City is 12.5 you can get, which is what it's been. 42.5, that number hasn't changed. Let's look at the injuries. Minshew has hurt a collarbone. I think he's out. O'Connell is injured with the thumb, Aiden O'Connell. If it's not him, I don't know where they go to Daniel Jones. It's funny how these other teams pick up Daniel Jones, but they're paying him $5. The Giants have to pay them. So they pick him up for nothing, but he's worthless. It's just amazing. And Kansas City, we've got now the new kicker's got a hamstring. So Buckner's out, had surgery, I guess. The new one's got a hamstring. Pacheco says injured ankle, doesn't say out. Is he ready to come back? Kareem Hunt injured with the toe. Smith-Schuster is injured with the hip. Interesting. I thought there was another guy injured. And I think the tight end is, they don't have. That was updated today. So I think St. Thomas for Detroit and Montgomery are okay. It's Taylor Decker and the cornerback. I'm not running to bet on Caleb. Not against the Lions. He's not going to do anything. Quickly, Seattle 1.5, 42.5 to the JETSs. Cincinnati 3, 47.5 to Pittsburgh in Cincinnati. Indy 2.5, 42.5 to New England. I'm just going to go through these quickly. Washington 5.5, 44.5 to Tennessee. Okay, the number hasn't changed. Minnesota 3.5, 45 to Arizona. That really hasn't moved. San Diego 1, 47.5 to Atlanta. I got 1.5, 48. So that number really hasn't moved. The funny part of this is I like San Diego against Cousins. If Penix played, I'd be on Atlanta. Atlanta doesn't know what they're doing. I mean, how many times? It's like Daniel Jones. How many times you got to see that he sucks, or Or Bryce Young. How many times you got to see that he sucks before you realize he sucks? 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, and they still play him, right? Finally, they got smart and got rid of Daniel Jones, but what are they doing with Bryce Young? So when I'm here, how many times do you got to see Kirk Cousins choke to realize he chokes? Now we know Herbert's really good. Herbert doesn't need all this time. Herbert doesn't choke. So you got basically Cousins who chokes and Penix who doesn't. Why they're not playing Penix is beyond me. It's they're like 7-5. They're nothing. They still don't have a defense. Atlanta's an E team with a 25 defense, so they scored 25 and they give up 25. San Diego's a B team with a 16 defense, and you want to fuck around with Kirk Cousins? Be my guest. Houston 43.5 to Jacksonville. Houston's an absolute joke. I don't see what they see in Stroud. I never liked them, and all he does is roll out. He threw a lot of interceptions last week. How he loses to Tennessee, this is the problem I have with them. He lost to Carolina last year. So everybody wants to say all he does is scramble around and play playground football, and it against Tennessee caught up with him. Let's see if Trevor Lawrence is playing. Well, we probably won't know till Sunday. Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence injured left shoulder, doesn't tell us anything. Houston injured. Everybody's injured, but nobody's out, so who knows? It'll say out or doubtful, and then we know what they got. All right. Tampa, 646.5 to Carolina. I mean, Bryce Young against Kansas City. I think Kansas City didn't even care. They thought it was Carolina. They're 11-point favorites. They didn't even try. I don't think they blitzed Bryce Young. Tampa Bay will. The Rams in New Orleans. The Rams 2.5 and 49 to New Orleans. I think New Orleans is a live dog in this game. Baltimore, Philly. Baltimore 351. This should be a great game. I think you have a live dog and you got some points. Buffalo 744.5. The question is Brock Purdy out? Is Bosa still out? If they are, yeah, it's an easy Buffalo. If they play, it's not an. Then you got to look at the Niners getting that kind of points. And our Monday night game is Denver 5.5, 41.5. Denver with a 17 defense. Cleveland, a W team with a 24. They do have Nick Chubb back. Myles Garrett. Winston sucks. Bo Nix is harder than hell. He was 0-5, and now he's 16-6. So he's 16-1 in his last 8 or 9 games as quarterback. So Bo Nix, he's got it. Caleb doesn't have it. Bo Nix got it. Daniels has it, and he's starting to get tired, I think. And then we got to see Mr. Penix get out there, and he'd be the rookie of the year. Then on next Thursday, Detroit 5.5, 51.5 to Green Bay. That'll be an interesting one. So Detroit's getting all these injuries, and they're going to be in trouble against the very good Green Bay team indoors, so there won't be the rain all day, and Love won't have his groin injury, so that could be a loss for Detroit. The Buffalo game could be a loss for Detroit. Detroit's good, but again, they just beat Indy, Jacksonville, Tennessee, and Houston. So they beat 4 bad teams. And the Dallas was thought was a good one, wasn't. So again, they're beating up weak teams. The best team they beat, Minnesota and Green Bay in the rain. Okay, we'll give them credit for those. And they were both on the road, so they're playing well. The key will come. They dodge Philadelphia and they dodge Kansas City this year, and Baltimore. Baltimore gives them a fit. See if Detroit could do this to Baltimore and Kansas City, then I'd believe them. Right now, I I kind of believe who they're playing. Oh, they got the Bears, a 20 defense. Bears have a pretty good defense, but Detroit's offense looks good. But they didn't look good in the first half against Houston. Golf had his normal game of 5 picks. And I love how they want to discount it. Well, his hand got hurt. Well, why didn't he see Russ coming? Get the fuck out of the way. Or scramble. You can't sit there, not see the rush. The rush hits your hand. That's your fault. You gotta be aware. So that's where Golf's problem is when they rush him. He doesn't show up. Let's see how our gold's doing. We always got to go back to gold. 26.27. It just took a little dive down. Silver 29.77. Ooh, it's a good buy on Friday. All right, so we know it's bullshit. So let's go away from there. Anybody buy? No. So that's football. I got to update my pros. Well, I think I did. I got to go and just update my teaser spreads, which takes 2 minutes and then, 5 minutes, because I can do all the teams. And then I look at them. But they were pretty good last week, I think. Let's see. Pitt lost. Minnesota was good. Detroit was good. Tampa Bay was good. Washington lost. Kansas City play against is a road favorite 11-0. It's 12-0. Play against the home dog Carolina didn't work. Tennessee play against the home favorite Houston was 8-1. Is 9-1. Play against the road dog Tennessee's 11-2. Didn't work. Denver 10-1. That was my lock last week. Green Bay 24-5. That worked. And Arizona play against 13-1. That worked. Or no, I think it's play against Seattle 13-1. That didn't work. And San Diego 9-1. That worked. So they're not 100%. Nothing's 100%. So you got to understand that. It's just like looking at gold. It's not going to go to 20,000 tomorrow. It will go there, but it doesn't every day. It's the nature of the beast. And these trends and everything I look at, and I code the teams A's and Z's. They're guides. They're helpful, and they win a lot more than they lose, but they are not 100%. And that's what you got to understand in gambling, in stocks, everything. There's nothing that's 100%. That's why there's the risk. If everything was 100%, it would be easy. But the only thing that is 100% is the dollar will go out and gold and silver will be king. That's 100%. That will happen. It's just the timing. So that's what you got to look at with football. It's the same with poker. You get dealt pocket aces, and how many times do you lose with pocket aces? Like you think it's an automatic. I got pocket aces. And you don't bet them properly. If you don't flop an ace, you got nothing. You got a pair, and there's 2 pair and trips all over the place. That's why you bet to get people out. You want to play pocket aces heads up. And you're only probably going to go against another pair, and you just got to avoid them hitting the set. You want to get the straights and flushes out by making a decent bet pre-flop. But then you hurt yourself because if everybody folds, you don't win any money with the pocket aces. So that's really what you're trying to avoid. You're trying to get you only can use the odds 70%, 80%, but nothing's 100%. Even if they're 15-0 as a home favorite, doesn't mean they're going to go to 16. It's a good possibility, but it's not 100%. So that's why I like you to bet to build the bankroll, because we will get losses. And It happens, but all you do is you look at it and you make the same bet. You stay stoic. If two over teams playing each other and we bet it over and it wins and it wins and it wins and then it loses, we stay stoic and we go, oh, there's two over teams this week. Let's go over. There's two other teams. There's two A teams playing. Let's tease the dog. And you just consistently do it. And you're going to lose sometimes. But if you go 9-1 or you go 85 out of 100 on it, that's the point of it. So that's what I do is I find those things and then we hammer them. And sometimes we lose with it. Hell, the last 2 weeks, I bet against Southern Miss with Texas State and South Alabama, and they both won. But that doesn't mean I can bet against Southern Miss every week. But that's why I like betting against the Z team, for example. But I bet them with explosive offenses, not with a weak offense. Like this week, Troy's not as strong. I probably won't go against Southern Miss. But you find the bitches, and then you just wait for the better teams to play them, and they're going to kill them because they can't stop anybody. Anyway, that's what we look at. So that's your economics. That's your gold. Putin, I don't think he'll nuke, but I think he will he's got other weapons that are just as powerful, but aren't nukes. So be careful. Why are you provoking this man? I don't know, but he's showing constraint. He does not want to go into Europe. He's not going to take Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Germany. He has no interest in invading Europe. It's costly, and he wants customers. He knows he can't control them. He's not going to control the Germans. He's not going to control the Poles. So they don't want him to control them in the first place. So he can't. He doesn't even want to. He just wants to rule Russians, which is fine. That's why he's not killing the Ukrainians, because a lot of them are Russian. So he doesn't want to destroy his own people. So that's why he's being very hesitant with this whole thing. But Russia's won. The game's over. Russia's won it. What the fuck we're doing, I have no idea. It shows you how insane the U.S. government is, and that's why we need to run and run fast. That's why you need your gold and silver, because you can't trust them as far as you can throw them, and it's really a bad situation. All right, I think that's it. 3 hours on a work day's mighty rough. So the game starts at noon, so I'll be on about 10:30, 10:45 for the the Lion games, the first one. So I'll come on just to go through the lines, talk a little bit about the Fridays, and then we can talk a little economics. But be probably 10:30 to 11:30 or something like that. Anyway, great locks this week. These are much stronger locks. Some locks are okay. I like it. Some I love, and that's what I look for. So that's what happened. I keep getting disconnected from the chat and then reconnected. Although I'm not reconnecting now, I should be. I don't know what that is. Yeah, okay, successfully connects. I don't know why I'm losing it, if it's too many people on or what. But anyway, so I'll be on about 10:30, let's figure. I want to sleep in a little. And then it's football tomorrow. So no work. So enjoy your day. Have a happy Thanksgiving. I hope to make you money. So it'd be real happy. And that's about it. So enjoy and have a good day. So www.teaserking.com. You want to buy the locks or the classes or the picks, just do that. That's fine. And if you do buy the classes like Alex does, then I'll send you the password, or G and people like that. So anyway, have a good day, and I will talk to you tomorrow morning. All right. Take care, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.